I was starting to ramble a little bit in the intro here, so I just recorded for 3 minutes. Like, no, I'm just going to start over. Okay, so all of the um, Eaglemoss replica ships that I've gotten so far, with the sole exception of the Excelsior, which I just now got, all of them kind of come from, relatively speaking, controversial stuff. Like I've got three ships plus a 4 pack of shuttles from the Kelvin timeline, and the Kelvin timeline is not very well appreciated. It's not well respected. There's a lot of problems with it, and chances are, we'll never get another Kelvin timeline anything, God willing. So there's that, and but then I've also got three ships from a Star Trek Enterprise, which at the time was not had problems with it, and it was not well received, and it was canceled due to low numbers. So and then I've got the Std Enterprise, which is, well, I like the design and I like what they did here, but like it comes from a show that, like, nobody asked for it, nobody likes it, nobody wants it. So with the sole exception of the Excelsior, everything I've gotten so far comes from shows or movies that people have issues with, and the Excelsior is kind of the exception. But the Std Enterprise, for me, breaks trend because I haven't seen the episodes that it's in. I haven't seen the show that it's in, and I never ever will. I never will. I have no interest whatsoever in Secret Hideout Productions. I have like none of their stuff. STD is a failure. Short Tracks is a failure. Star TP is a failure, and God only knows what's going to happen with Lower Decks. We don't know what's going to happen with Lower Decks. So the fact that Lower Decks even exists is not the way we really wanted Star Trek to return to 2D animation. Like that's an issue in and of itself. And it's basically just Rick and Morty except in the vein of Star Trek. So chances of that working is not going to work either. And considering how Secret Hideout and Bad Robot have been plagiarizing other works for the last 10 years, almost 11 years at this point, it's no surprise that Lower Decks is just going to be a ripoff of Rick and Morty, even though it's made by the guy who created Rick and Morty. It's like, hey, let's just take that show and put a spray paint of Star Trek on it and call it good. That's all that Lower Decks is. But the fact that there's no leaks coming out of it, out of the production, at this point, no news is good news, at least in terms of the Bad Robot and Secret Hideout era. There's no news in this case may be good news because, like, the Trekkers who are sprinkled in amongst the production that are inevitably going to be part of the production, whether they were deliberately recruited or not, none of them are saying anything bad right now. None of them are. There are no leaks coming out of Lower Decks. So either the production's really good, or they've got to clamp down on those leaks somehow. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Lower Decks. So I'm not going to bash that, and I'm just going to wait and see what happens with that. But anyways, the STD Enterprise, um, I hemmed and hawed over that one because it's like, well, it looks like the Enterprise, but on the other hand, it comes from STD. So technically, the $75 that I paid to get the STD Enterprise, the XL edition STD Enterprise, technically that money goes towards STD. That money goes towards Secret Hideout because it's their design. It's for their show. So, like, that's the reason why I felt bad about it and I felt dirty about it. I'm like, oh, no. But then I was like, well, it's not because it's the Enterprise, but because it looks like the Enterprise. Does it behave like the Enterprise? No. Does it act like the Enterprise? No. But it definitely looks like it enough that it failed the niche. I was like, okay, I got it just because I like it. Well, this one, no excuse. This is just straight up. I hemmed and hawed about this one for, well, at this point it would be 6 months because this is June, and I found out about these in November, December. So it's been half a year since I found about Eaglemoss and all these replicas. And I learned about this design almost 6 months ago. I don't remember when exactly, but I learned about this design, and I've been hemming and hawing. Should I get it? Shouldn't I get it? Because, well, it even says it on the box. The USS Kerala comes from STD. So this is not a design that comes from any. This is not like the Std Enterprise where they were modifying an iconic ship in order to make it conform to the new series or whatever this shit is. But this is an original design that comes from an original series. So I hemmed and hawed about this one for quite some time. And ultimately, I decided, who cares what everyone else says? It just looks neat, whatever. So I'm well aware this is a financial endorsement of STD, but at the same time, I'm protesting it. So, like, what can I say? They got my money anyway. So I guess this is me endorsing STD, even though I've only ever seen one episode of it, and I would be hard pressed because, like, that one episode I saw, the pilot episode on broadcast TV, was 2 years ago. I can't even remember what it was about. I really don't. So this is a blind purchase, and I got it because it looks neat. That's it. That's why I got it. So yeah, it's giving money. Technically, it's giving money to Secret Hideout, and no, I don't feel clean about it. But on the other hand, it looks neat enough. Oh, so they do have a magazine. They have a very tiny magazine, probably because it only appears a couple of times. So there's a little mini mag on the inside. So I just like the look of it. That's it. That's the only reason I got it. I know nothing about its function in the show. Much like the STD, I know nothing about it. I've never even seen it animated. I've never seen anything of it. So I don't know anything about the history of the ship. I don't know if there are any characters. I don't know how prominent it is, and that looks really nice, by the way. Um, I know nothing about this ship. And again, that's the same kind of insulation, the same kind of excuse I've got for the STD Enterprise. It's like I know it's got R2D2 repair droids and it's got space fighters and it's like twice the size of TOS and like, but with the USS Kerala, I do know one thing though. It's part of the Shepherd class. That's the class of ships. So there's the USS Kerala. There's actually a number of ships of this class that appear in the show, and that's the extent of my knowledge of it. But I don't know captains, first officers, guest appearances. I don't know anything about this design. All I know is that it looks neat. And I don't even know which episodes it appears in. I'd actually looked at YouTube reviewers and also text and picture reviews on a number of sites, and some of the designs were neat and the detailing of it, and just it looks neat. I like it. It's kind of interesting how why would you paint your phaser turrets? Okay, whatever. There's a couple of reasons why I got this, aside from the fact that it just looks neat and I just like it. Um, One of the even though this is not true, and this isn't even a headcanon thing. This is strictly not true, but it does look like a Star Trek ship, a Starfleet ship that was designed by Sid Mead, the late great Sid Mead, the futurist artist Sid Mead. It's got his kind of angles and panel detailing and all kinds of things like that. This looks like something. This is the underside, by the way. This looks like something that he might have done if he was commissioned to do a painting for Star Trek or something like that. That's what this looks like. I believe this was actually designed by crap. I forgot his name already. John Eves. I think John Eves did all the starship designs for STD. So. Oh, look, there's bridge windows. Hooray. Are those nacelles bent? No, they are not. Good. as one of hundreds of complaints about STD. The Shepherd class has been accused of being basically being an upside down version of I believe it's the USS Shenzhou, which was the starship that appeared in the first episodes, the first two episodes of STD. So that's pretty much all it is, because it's got the dish on the top and the engines on the bottom and the bridge on the bottom. So basically, if you take the Shenzhou and you flip it upside down, it's the USS Kerala. Or I'm sorry, it's the Shepherd class. The Kerala is one specific ship. So, and you know, if you look at it, it's like, yeah, it does just kind of look like you took one and you flipped it over. So it's not like that hasn't happened in Star Trek history before. I'm just saying. Ooh, nacelle didn't get glued quite properly right there. I did look at the what's it called, the USS Shenzhou. Um, I have looked at all the offerings that Eaglemoss had, and like this is kind of the only one that I was interested from STD. And I'll say it again: the USS Discovery herself, for the most part, I'm like about 80 to 85% of it I'm not opposed to, but it's that extra it's that extra 15-20% of the design it's enough to turn me away from it and not invest money in it. So um, actually, I think the Discovery is a 10-inch model, and this is an 8.5-inch model. So much like the USS Franklin from Star Trek Beyond, really really tiny. Uh, what are those called? Impulse engines, real tiny, just sitting at the back. Oh, is that? Is that? Oh no, it's not. Okay. I think the only thing I'm really opposed to, just in terms of like just aesthetics or whatever it is I can't quite figure out what these two these two little thingies are right here that are underneath the impulse engines. I can't quite figure out what those are. Are they like weapons ports or vents or I don't know. But I kind of feel like they're excessive. Like you could actually remove them and you'd never know the difference. It's all that kind of thing. What is it? If it didn't come from STD, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. Looks fine. And yeah, there's a bit of STD aesthetic on the go here. Um, for example, right in front of the registry number there, it's in a sunken in part of the saucer, and there's a band of lights right in front of it because there's a thing in STD where you have to have a bank of lights just behind the registry, the name and the registry number, so that the lights will shine down on it. That's a thing in STD. That's not to say that other ships didn't have that. It's just in STD, it's far, far more prominent for reasons and things and stuff, and I don't care. But it's actually so minimal here that like I can ignore it. It's fine, whatever. The other signature of an STD ship is that the most of the hull, with the exception of the saucer, most of the nacelle and engine designs and pylons and all those things very angular, very sharp edges to them. There's nothing really round about any of them. Even on the Discovery herself, there isn't really anything round except for the rings, not the saucer, but the rings of the primary hull. It is a neat looking ship. I mean that's why I got it. It looks neat. Although I'm not entirely certain why she's got so many phaser ports just all over the place and why they're not molded or painted better on the top. She's got, I suppose that's just the engineering, or that's just the design aesthetic of STD ships, is they've got a shit ton of missile launchers, yeah, right, of phaser ports and whatever on the bottom, but for whatever reason they completely forgot to put them on the top. Which, to be fair, that has happened before in Star Trek history. If you look at the Sovereign class Enterprise E, she actually has very few weapons on the back, and that's because in Star Trek First Contact, most of the attacks that the Enterprise encounters are from below. So she's shooting down or shooting forward. She never gets attacked from behind. So in their as they were designing the ship, they totally forgot to put like torpedo launchers and phaser strips. So there's actually a huge gap in her defense in the back of the Enterprise E, which they eventually fixed in Nemesis. So a little sloppy painting on those observation windows. A little sloppy. And again, like with the STD Enterprise, the Kerala here, her the Aztec pattern on the saucer, it looks like somebody spray painted something and then just took like a paper or a cloth of some kind, a paper towel or a cloth, and just wiped. And then whatever streaking was left over, that's the or the Aztec pattern that's left behind. It's not. It's not. But it seems like it. The other thing about STD's Starfleet ships is they do not have, because the first aesthetic is they have these bold panels all over the place. The second thing is that all the on the top of the saucer or rings in some cases, the the registry number and the name have lights that have a big bank of lights that shine down on it. And then the third thing they have is that their Bussard collectors are just a bunch of little. Um, they're like a bunch of separate domes. They're not covered by a big dome or a big band of some kind. They're actually like individual things. Which, to be fair, I thought was really neat in the teaser trailer version of the USS Discovery. I liked that it had kind of exposed, non-covered Bussard collectors. I thought that was a neat thing. It's like, oh, there's a lot of redundancy happening there. It's like, okay, that's neat. And I'll say it again for the record. If Eaglemoss, they won't. But if Eaglemoss ever made the SDCC teaser trailer version of the USS Discovery in like an 8-inch, 8.5-inch, yes, I would buy it. The final 10.5-inch version, no. But the trailer version, yes, I would buy that. Bottom of the saucer has a lot of raised panels. A lot of good detailing on the bottom here, but not quite as much on the top. I don't know why, just. And then the navigation dish is just whatever. It's just an oval. It's not like I haven't seen that before in one of my Eaglemoss ships. I'm just saying. In addition to looking like the late Sid Mead had designed a starship or a Star Trek ship of some kind, which this does look like, there's another reason why I got this, and I don't know why I keep coming back to this, but I just do. Um, this the Shepherd class specifically feels like an updated version or a next generation, not Star Trek the Next Generation, but it feels like an evolution of. It feels like an evolution of the NX class. God, this is still heavy. It feels like an evolution of it. It doesn't have the Akira Prize aesthetics. It doesn't have this bump here, and it doesn't have this narrow thing here, and it doesn't have here in the shuttle bays and things like that. So this would be a small ship. This thing is freaking huge. It's like 400 meters or some stupid thing. Anyways, it feels like an evolution of the NX class, the next the next generation of design for an NX class. Like they took this, and after 100 years, they came up with this. They decided to revisit it. Oh, okay, that's kind of legitimate. We'll see what we can do with it. That's what this feels like, and it has many of the same features. For example, arguably, you can say that the bank of lights is that kind of big line that goes across the STD, or no, I'm sorry, goes across the front of the Akira Prize. Um, you could also say that these structures here are the two arms that go up either side of the NX class, or yeah, that go up either side, and then ordinarily there would be a big old hole in the hull between the shuttle bay and like the warp field stabilization whatever that thing is right there. But then because this is a next generation version of it, not TNG, but next generation version, that hole is no longer there. The other thing is that the nacelles are above, right? But two things. One, it's actually a pair of pylons. It's not a single pylon that goes up and down, but let's see if I can get you. You can kind of see there. There's actually a pair of pylons for each warp nacelle, which is kind of neat. Adds some nice stability to it, whatever. But the other thing that's interesting about it is this kind of does what I wanted that to do. Like if I had been present for the design of the NX class or the Akira Prize, if I had to do my own version of the NX class and I deliberately removed a lot of the Akira Prize aesthetics, this band here and these things here, and get rid of this and get rid of the cargo bays and get rid of if I were to take that away and basically if I were to do this, but not as blunt, I'll say. One of the things that I would do is first off, I would get rid of this support structure in the middle here, and I would have taken the nacelles and I would have pushed them closer in, so that the nacelles and the pylons would all have been shifted forward significantly. So I would actually have had the nacelles hanging out over the top of the saucer. That's how I would do it. Would have done it. As a result of that, the arms here, these arms would not be as prominent. They would actually be a lot shorter than what they are right now, and you wouldn't have a need for this thing right here. So what ends up happening is that this crystal thing ends up actually replaces this little dome, whatever this thing is. I totally don't know what it's called. So this ends up on top of this. So the ship would actually be significantly shorter than it is. So you just effectively you would have had the nacelles, or I'm sorry, the pylons would have come directly out of the back of the ship. That's how I would have done it. I would not have had this wing structure here or whatever. So I would not have done that. And so the Shepherd class does do that. Well, not entirely. The wings are shaped very differently. They're shaped very differently, but they're still located above the saucer. So as effectively, it comes straight up. So rather than those booms tilting downwards like they do on the NX class, instead they go straight. So yeah, they still come up out of the saucer, but they continue straight rather than curving downwards. And that's one of the problems that throws off the NX class is this right here. It curves downwards. And that's something that I would not do. I would have it come out straight, which would mean that the pylons would be a lot shallower. So rather than being, and I'm going to exaggerate here, rather than being steep like this, they would be a lot shallower. They'd be a lot more flattened out, which is what this does. Those pylons are very flattened, or they're more flat. That to me does it correctly. So yeah, the Shepherd class, even though it comes from STD, the Shepherd class does feel like an evolved, and it's not. It's not, because Secret Hideout's too fucking stupid to even know the NX class even exists. Okay, and that I would put money on that one. The Shepherd class feels like an evolved version of the old NX class. That's what this feels like, as if it was designed by Sid Mead. Hey, how about that? And there's another thing. Rather than having the navigational deflector at the very front of the saucer section, instead they decided to put it underneath, because you have to make that evolution from NX to classic Constitution class Enterprise. You have to make that transition, which means they start to add in an engineering hull. So basically, they took engineering, which is kind of buried inside of the hull, or buried inside of the saucer. They would take it from inside here and they would actually move it downwards and actually give it kind of an engineering, an engineering hull like structure. Eventually, through the evolution of starship designs, they'll take this and they'll pull it downwards to the point where you have to create a neck. For whatever reason, you have to create a neck. But they haven't gotten there yet. They're starting to, but they haven't done it yet. They haven't created a completely separate engineering hull yet. So this feels like, okay, they're on the verge of making that decision, but they haven't made it yet. And as a result of that, you no longer have the navigation deflector on the leading edge of the saucer, but rather you've got it behind and below. So that makes sense too, to my idiot brain, of course. That makes sense. A very tiny United Federation of Planets, but of course you can't see the name anywhere except for right there. Hmm. And the name doesn't even appear along the side of the nacelles. It doesn't appear there. That was not glued together very well. It's sticking together, but like. So this to me, I'll say it again, feels like an evolved or a next generation version of the NX class if it was designed by Sid Mead. That's what my brain decided this looks like. Even down to, remember that old drop bay that they used to have, the shuttle drop bay they used to have? Well, it turns out, well, now it's sitting back there, but the doors open up, so the shuttles still have to come up in order to enter into the bay. They still have to go up in order to get into it. It's not like all other designs where they come down like this and then land on the secondary hull or whatever it is. No, they still have to go up and into the shuttle bay in order to get to it. So it still kind of has a drop bay appearance, which by the way the NX class does. So yeah, I like it. I do like it. And again, I think the only problem I've got, and I'm just gonna ignore it because like I have no idea what they are, and quite frankly, I'm not going to research what they are. Quite frankly, Secret Hideout probably doesn't know what they are either. But these two little, whatever these things are, these two little thingies here underneath the pylons, I have no idea what they are. Like if you got rid of them, I wouldn't miss them. So it's the only one I like. So unfortunately, she's 500 505.5 meters long. So which would be 1,300 feet. No, that'd be 1,500 feet. Pretty big ship. Almost a mile long. That's stupid how long that is. Secret hideout. Yeah, they got money out of me this time. No excuse. This is. I wouldn't mind seeing a Prime Universe corrected version of this. Not an alternate licensing version, but I'd like to see them do an updated version of this. And as for uh, window alignment, pretty good. Although there's no maneuvering thrusters, that surprises me. There's no maneuvering thrusters anywhere. Either they're too small or they just didn't add them. I don't know. One of many details. Like I guess I shouldn't be picky about that, but like it's. I mean, I picked them up immediately on the Excelsior and the NX one, and I even picked them up on the Church Prize, even though they forgot to paint them on the top. Which, but they just simply don't have them here. So, do they not? Yeah, they do have them on the Std Enterprise, but they're not painted either there. So I think I don't remember. Yeah, they're not painted. So the fact that this doesn't have them, period. Like, so if this is 505 meters, is that 700 meters? Something like that. I don't remember. It's neat. I like it. Um, yeah, I can live with it. I'm good. It's fine. I wonder if which one's the bigger offense, that I paid for merchandise, or that, or let me rephrase that. Where would they be getting the majority of money from me in terms of which one's more important to them for financing STD? Is it from merchandise or from subscribing to CBS All Access? Which one do they get more money from me from? I mean, they've already gotten. Let's see, that'd be zero. Yeah, they've already gotten $155 out of me for these two designs. Much as I enjoy the Std Enterprise, the fact is it's still from Std, so they still got my money on that one. Which would be okay? Let me ask, which is the bigger sin? That I paid 70 a one time. Actually, it's $50 for the, yeah, a one time $50 thing for a replica, or for a scaled replica, or would it be the monthly subscription to CBS All Access? Like which is the lesser of two evils? I guess is what I'm asking. And how does this peg in? Or more to the point, where does this plug in? Does it actually go over the top of the? Oh wow, this one just straight up covers the impulse engines. Huh. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's not bad. It's not bad. How much of a heretic am I for buying this? Just like, it feels dirty, but at the same time it's like, okay, it looks neat. Whatever. Well, I like it. I guess this is a real guilty pleasure because, like, I feel bad for giving money to STD and Secret Hideout, but on the other hand, it's a pleasurable design. So I guess even more so than the STD Enterprise is, like, I guess this would be the real guilty pleasure. So no, I take it back. I only paid $50 for this, but I'm getting a little disappointed how big this thing is. Okay, let's see here. Kind of looks nice. I think the reason why this is so small is just because STD doesn't have a lot of content to work with, and they didn't have a lot, to go with in terms of like the design of things and what it looks like, and I don't know. Like maybe the USS Discovery herself, maybe she has a full-sized Mook rather than this. I don't know. Probably just because she appears so much in her own show, so whatever. Class Shepard Affiliation Federation launched 23rd century, a length of 505.5 meters, approximately. Ooh. Wait, if those are the bridge windows, then those other portholes are really freaking tiny. Why? Why are those bridge windows so damn big? Unlike several of her fellow ships, the Shepard-class Kerala managed to survive the fateful battle of the battle at the binary stars. I have no idea what that means. The USS Kerala played an important role in the battle of the binary stars between the Federation and Klingons. So it must be a season one design, because the Klingons were prominent in the first season, something like that. The USS Kerala was a Shepard-class Federation starship that was active in the mid-23rd century. The ship was named after the state in South India where the country's Institute of Space Science and Technology was based. Huh? Oh, okay. Sorry. While its class was named in honor of the 20th century astronaut Alan Shepard, who was the first American in space. As with other Shepard-class ships, the Kerala had a sleek design with an Aztec patterned saucer section that blended into a secondary hull and raised blocky nacelles with upward slanted struts. Upward slanted struts? What? I wouldn't call it that. Whatever. There's a couple of nice CGI shots right there. Oh, but those bridge windows are freaking huge. Kind of throws off what everything else has. Fuck fucking called it! Visually, the Kerala had echoes of the NX class ship that were active in the mid 22nd century, and it was armed with phasers and photon torpedoes as well as defensive battles deflector shields. Hashtag in B4! I fucking called it! I wonder if John Eves designed this thing with the NX class in mind, because if they fucking said it right there, it had to. So either Eaglemoss just pulled the line out of their ass, or this actually is inspired by the NX class. The Kerala was one of a number of Federation starships that arrived to assist the USS Shenzhou, which had sent out a distress signal after coming under unprovoked attack by the Klingon agitator. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name, and his forces. The USS Kerala itself survived the battle, though it is uncertain how badly it was damaged or what it did next. Other known Shepard-class ships include the USS Ride, which was also present at the Battle at the Binary Stars. Wouldn't it be Battle of the Binary Stars? Battle at the Binary. And the USS Gagarin, the latter piloted by who? Was ambushed by 6 Klingon warships shortly after the battle at the Binary Stars. Despite a valiant attempt by the USS Discovery to save her, the Gagarin was destroyed by a torpedo from a Klingon bird of prey, which guaranteed looked absolutely nothing like the traditional Klingon bird of prey. I'm just fucking saying. Yep, that's John Eves. Straight up John Eves. It's a nice low render. It's a nice low render concept of the Kerala. That looks nice. It's not a painting. It's 3D. It's nice. Like that. The USS Kerala started life as an experimental warship, but when the script changed, it was repurposed to become a background ship. Hmm. For the Shepard class, John Eves returned to his rejected Shenzhou designs and turned an abandoned idea into a fully fledged ship. Okay. So this was originally. Oh, so it actually is. You just turn it upside down and it's the Shenzhou. During the development of Discovery. Ah, fuck, I said it. Concept artist John Eves spent months working on the design of the USS Shenzhou. Every day he would produce 4 or 5 sketches, most of which were rejected as the producers struggled to find the perfect design. Every time one of those sketches was turned down, Jeeves put it to one side, knowing that it could be used as one of the fleet ships that would appear during the first season. Which makes sense, yeah, that is known to happen in Star Trek history. And John Eves is known for doing that, so I've got no objection to that. After the 2 main ships, the Shenzhou and the Discovery, the first major ship the producers planned to feature was the USS Curie. We were going to see the ships in episode 6 or 7, Eves recalls. It was originally called the Curie after Madame Curie. The ship was later replaced by the Crossfield class USS Glenn. Crossfield class being the same class as the USS Discovery herself. So there's 2 ships. There's the Discovery and then there's the Glenn. But at that point, it had a totally different design. It was experimenting with a new warp technology that went through a bizarre kind of time warp where the ship became rippled and deformed. All that stuff was going to take place on the Curie, which soon got renamed to the Kerala. And I am not going to read this whole thing. Oh, here it is again. Eves looked through his pile of Shenzhou sketches and soon found a design that had been well received. It was clearly an earlier version of the Shenzhou and had a lot in common with the NX-01. Fucking called it, man. Fucking called it. It had a saucer with a spar coming off the back supported twin nacelles. Like the other Shenzhou, probably a Shenzhou concept. It had the bridge on the underside and a rounded secondary hull on the top that had been blended into the saucer. Eves took the design and flipped the saucer over so the bridge was on the top. He then rapidly produced a series of pencil sketches that show the layout of the ship. I was right. I did not know that it was based off of the NX class. The shape of the nacelles was a particular concern for Eves. STD's co-creator, Brian Fuller, well, not really, considering he was fired before the show even aired, had specifically requested that all the new designs had square nacelles, but both the NX-01 and Kirk's Enterprise had rounded ones. Eves and the rest of the art department came up with their own theory explaining this. Quote, when you're drawing stuff, we want a reason why you're doing stuff. We came up with this idea, what eventually became the Spore drive, which is an STD only thing. was going to be the new power system, and all these ships were designed to eventually be fitted with that. So they have a traditional warp nacelle, but it's in a new housing. If it didn't work, they'd have the traditional warp nacelles inside. Meh. Eves took the designs for the Shenzhou and modified them to make a new ship. The bar across the back was a deliberate echo to the roll bar on the USS Reliant. Yeah, which the Shenzhou has as well. Um, if you take, wow, that's really on there solidly. Good grief. If you take, I mean, let's be honest. So this is basically the Shenzhou right here, okay? And it even says it here several times. So this bar on the underneath here, the nacelles are actually much lower on the Shenzhou, and the bar that goes between them is a lot lower as well. So yeah, I can understand it being part of the was it Miranda class? Yeah, the USS Defiant from or Reliant USS Reliant from Star Trek Two. That does make sense, yeah. But there's a picture here that is very reminiscent of the this. This is what my Star Trek Enterprise NX-01 Enterprise would have looked like, where the nacelles were coming directly out of the back of the saucer, and then there was that roll bar in the center. That is how I would have done it, and that's the thing that I was talking about earlier when I said, oh yeah, I'm going to move it closer. Well, he's got a picture right there that's showing exactly that, and the Shenzhou does the same thing. I haven't looked at it in detail, but I want to say that the pylons come directly out of the saucer, as opposed to this version where it actually comes out of an engineering hall, and then you have the pylons out the back. Yeah, that's yep, yep. He's felt that the initial version of the ship that came back from the VFX team was too short and stumpy, so he asked them to stretch it. Oh, it was. Looks like they just made the saucer bigger each time. Hmm. God damn. There's a whole bunch of STD, Klingon, and Federation ships. Like, if they weren't Klingon, I might be interested. They have kind of a biotech look to them, but like, that's that's not that's nothing. That's nothing. Oh, the Kerala made its debut in the second episode, fighting alongside another ship of the same class, the USS Ride. Another ship of the same class appeared in the eighth episode. The major difference was the position and size of the registry number. Yeah, it looks a lot bigger. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of that episode. By this point, the Curie had become the Kerala, but even this wasn't destined to last long. While the writers were working on the script, they decided that because the ship was experimenting with a spore drive, it should belong to the same class as the Discovery. So the Crossfield class USS Glenn filled this role instead. This meant that although the Kerala had been finished, it was no longer needed. The design was reputed, I'm sorry, the design was repurposed to become one of the ships in the fleet that took on the Klingons at the Battle of the Binary Systems. Quote, originally, Eves says, there were only 6 ships in that opening battle, but when I read the script, I saw that we're naming them off, and I thought, what? There are like 12 in there now. They needed more ships, and they had the models, so they put them in. Hmm. He used to say that the Kerala belonged to the Shepard class, which was named for the astronaut Alan Shepard. Another ship of the same class, USS Ride, also featured in the battle, and then a third one, the USS Gagarin, appeared in STD's 8th episode. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that because they're trying to be oh so clever and using Latin. Eve suggested changing a little more than the registry number or the ships of the same class and produce a series of sketches showing subtle variations between the different ships. He proposed altering the nacelles in the area immediately behind the bridge, but when it came to it, the visual effects department decided against this and used the same models for all 3 ships. Okay. The final model is probably the most traditional of all of Eve's designs for STD, and perhaps unsurprisingly has made more on-screen appearances than any of the other fleet ships. Yeah, yeah. I'm not really opposed to anything that's said in here. So, yep. It's a nice, convenient little read. Good pictures though. Lots a lot of good pictures in here. Actually, I kind of like the smaller magazine. Like, don't get me wrong, I like the larger pictures of the other ones, but like, I'm not opposed to this. As opposed to the frickin' can I pull that out? Let me see. It is. Um, is it bigger? I think. Oh yeah, it definitely has. Yeah, it's definitely bigger than the shuttles that I reviewed or that I uncovered previously. It is slightly larger though, and there's more pages to it as well. There's only like 3 or 4 pages of this. There's like 10 or 12 here. So I like it. It's fine. Worked out nicely. It's a nice design. It's nice and wide too. The kind of headcanon thing that I'd come up with. Oh yeah, it looks like an evolved version of the NX-01 Enterprise. And then I read about it and I'm like, are you kidding me? I was right. And I figured that out all by myself. Yep, that's good for me. I saw previews of some of the STD third season ships, and there's hot loads of nothing all over the place in there. So, uh, yeah. So this will probably be it for me in terms of anything that I ever get from STD. So the fact that I'm saying that I even got anything from STD, but I think this is okay. This is this works for me. This is good.